How many different places are you selling beer?
100 different places.
I don't like loaded question. I don't mean just like how many retail outlets. I mean all the different channels or ways that you're selling beer.
As far as sales channels, we sell in retail, we sell online through Amazon, through Shopify. We sell out of our tap room.
With Shopify, customers not going to shopify.com.
Correct. Yeah. When I say Shopify, it's our online storefront. So gobrewing.com.
Got it.
With Shopify or with our storefront, we also have something called online wholesale. So there's a widget or portal within that store that we created for retailers outside of our distribution area. So online wholesale within Amazon, there's two parts to that. There's FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. That means we actually ship pallets to Amazon. When an order comes in, Amazon fulfills them for us. That allows you to get the Prime badge, which from a conversion standpoint is really important. You pay a heavier fee for that. And then there's FBM, and FBM is really an extension of your website in the sense that the order comes in through your website. It just was sold on Amazon. So there's like a connector.
Okay.
So then we would see, oh, here's an FBM order. We don't have any of the customer information, meaning like you don't get an email from the customer. So the drawback to Amazon is you don't get that customer data. So you can't really reach back out to them. And if you think about your Amazon experience, it's probably a good thing because imagine how many emails you would get. It'd be crazy.
I imagine that you doing the FBM first and then like qualify for FBA. Is it based on volume? Is it based on like rate of sale? Like,
yeah, it's a great question. For FBA, you have to be very consistent on your product mix and you can't really run out of stock. So it's not a good place to start if you're just experimenting. Meaning like we have these seasonal beers, or we have beers that like beer of the month. Theoretically, I'd love to get those on Amazon. Well, by the time it gets on Amazon, you're looking at like 20 to 30, sometimes 40 days by the time you are starting to like print out the labels and get everything ready for it. And it just doesn't work. So you really want to get an established product with established reviews on that product and then build that up over time. FBM is a little bit different. You still want a steady product sequence and you want to make sure you have stock because again, you want to build up reviews on that SKU. If you just put something on there and you run out and you add something else, it doesn't really work.
When did you start selling on Amazon? Was it you always knew you were going to? Did you have to get there sooner than you wanted to? Like how does that fit in with the overall sales strategy that you had otherwise?
So I think to answer that question, it's taking a step back on what was our strategy in the beginning. And our strategy in the beginning of all this was to build the brand online first. And the thinking was twofold. One, we didn't have retail relationships. It's not like people were coming to us saying, oh, do you have an NA beer? I'd love to take it in all my stores. That just doesn't happen like that. So we needed to create data and proof points and build a data story, I should say. Building a data story is so critical when you're small. Well, when you have nothing, you've got to build a data story from nothing. And that data story expands over time and it changes. So the first data story we had to build is to prove that consumers wanted our products online. Once we started to prove that by repeat customer rate, that's a really important metric. Lifetime value of the customer, so how many times is a customer ordering within, let's say 6 to 9 to 12 months. Those are really important metrics. And that's really was our key focus initially. It was less to do about COGS and margin, even though that's really important for a lot of businesses to start. For us, it was like, because we control the product, we knew over time we could get our costs down. It was like, we need to find product market fit. And we're going to do that through our customer base. Once we started to do that, the next place to expand our reach is Amazon. That is why you advertise on Amazon, in my opinion. It's because it's the biggest marketplace in the world, and they have an audience already built in. You can go to Amazon for a million things. So if you can show your product on Amazon, and you can show up in the search results on Amazon when someone's searching for a set product, then that really kind of expands your reach and your potential customer base.
Even though there's a bit of a gap in terms of the customer data that you don't get from Amazon, no email, contact information, stuff like that, you're still getting all of the other data in terms of how much you're selling, rate of sale, repeat buys, and all that kind of stuff. And from that are making this story on basically the growth of the brand and the company.
Yeah, a lot of our decisions are made based on the Shopify data because we do get really good customer data and feedback. So every single purchase order that happens online, the customer gets an online survey immediately, like upon checkout.
Yeah.
we collect that data. We never don't have something running.
Sure.
And we'll ask a series of questions that are relevant to us till we get significance on those questions. Meaning, once you get 300 to 500 responses typically, assuming that the delta in the answers that you're asking is different enough, you have significance to the point you don't need to keep asking the same question. So we'll change up those questions. So like a series of questions we asked earlier was what styles you like, or when you're shopping in retail, what do you look for? All those things. And then over time, those questions change based on, do we have enough data to make a decision and say, oh yeah, customers, they want variety. And that was one thing we learned really quickly. Some of this is like Captain Obvious stuff, but it validates it.
Yeah.
On Amazon, you get subscriber data, so you know what products sell. You can ask a customer, but there's a lot of friction in there. So you got to kind of send them like a postcard to say like, hey, can you give us feedback on this?
Did you really expect it to be much different than the data that you're...
Not at all. If I was only an Amazon seller,
right,
I want to make it clear to someone that is a drawback. So if you just go on Amazon, you're going to get less data. Now, if you're coming to the market with a very unique product, like for example, like really protein-specific products, right? There's a clear need for that. There's a demand for that. That to me has more to do with like your branding, your marketing. Someone's going to try your product, and it's going to be clear if they like it or not based on your repeat purchase rate and your subscribers. So if you try it once, and you like it, the next time you try it, you're going to probably subscribe.
Yeah.
You start getting that feedback, that's really good validation.
I've never actually heard this term data story, and I love it immediately. So you've got the very traditional brand story based, say, on anecdotal feedback from customers, and this is what people like. You've got this qualitative data that you're getting in surveys. Tell me about the styles. How often do you drink NA? What occasions do you drink on? Stuff like that. And then you've got what I'll just call like just the metric data, how often we're selling, maybe to where and all that, that you are using to then grow the business into retail and other spaces. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. So then we would go to a retailer and we would show them data on our top selling products, the customer feedback on those products, and basically give them a reason to give us a chance to rent. And I alluded to this in another podcast. Essentially, you're kind of like renting a space to prove your product can sell at a rate that is consistent with the store's standards, which are typically under 30 days. And distributors order from us every 30 days. No one wants to have more than 30 days of stock. So once you start building that data story up online, and on Amazon, and then you get a chance at retail, now your data story has to shift. So now you can't go in 2026 to a big retailer and say, oh, well, I sell a ton online, because now I have a different data story that is proven over the last year or so and it's validated now through external sources like Nielsen, who look at scan data. Now I have to take that data story and put it in front of retailers. So the online and the Amazon is still important, but it's way less important than it was in that mechanism. Now, at the same time, if I'm pitching Walmart has a division that's similar to Amazon in the sense that they sell online. They have a marketplace, and they have like a online wholesale division. They might want to see, and they probably look at Amazon data to then validate, oh, this brand would be really good on Walmart. Well, if I want to get in Walmart, it's probably a pretty good signal if I'm doing well on Walmart.com.
Yeah.
And there's less friction there for Walmart to pick up that product because really they're fulfilling it through us anyway.
Is that the same structure, say, like with Target or other big retailers that have significant online platforms?
It's different, actually. Amazon and Walmart are one and the same in the sense that they have a broader marketplace. Amazon's much larger, obviously, but most other retailers, you have to be in their physical store to then be on their online portal.
So would you say, generally speaking, whatever category that you're in, start selling on your own through your own storefront via Shopify or something like that, and get your initial set of data and then go to an Amazon or some other bigger, like, is that the next play typically?
Yeah, you can go straight to Amazon. There's just risk there because Amazon is a beast. It is harder than managing your own storefront, especially with FBA, because you're shipping things to a warehouse. They have a lot of guidelines in that warehouse. Things can get lost, things get delayed. If your whole business is based on that and your capital is now sitting in a warehouse that you don't control initially, to me, that's risky. I'm sure there's very successful businesses that do it. If you have an option, it's better to collect data on your own storefront, fulfill yourself, or do a 3PL. You don't have to do everything yourself. We did everything ourselves because I wanted to control it, but That to me is the best because now you're collecting data from your customer. You can email them. Your acquisition costs over time are less and less because you're building a database. So when you have a new product, you can email your customers instead of showing an ad to new customers. It just creates a win-win.
So are you selling on social platforms directly as well?
Yeah, it's interesting because the platforms push this pretty hard a couple years ago and it's faded a lot. Like there's
Really?
not a lot of native selling. Now, when you say selling, we certainly advertise on social platforms,
Right.
but we drive traffic back to our website. I don't know why they went away from it, probably just because it wasn't profitable, but there was a time when a meta ad, you could click on that ad, and I think you can still technically do this today. The algorithm's not pushing toward it like it was. So it might have represented like 5% of our sales. Now it represents like less than 1% of our native checkout integration. I will say differentiation with that is going to be like ChatGPT. They're going to have native shopping experience through Shopify. So you will still have that. It's not going away. And I do believe there's a world where people can check out wherever they want to check out. Like the notion of like a customer always having to go to your website is a little bit dated. I think someone could check out through a text message. Like, why even have to go to an external website if you know what you want? Like, you could just respond. You could respond to wherever. Keep people where they are, where they're hanging out, and then make sure that you're creating a flow and then you have integration set up so it just becomes a lot less friction.
What about TikTok?
We are starting to sell on, we're doing TikTok Shop, which is basically you have a lot of sellers and affiliates. It works a little bit different, but it does have that native shopping integration. So that is, I would say, a caveat to what I was talking about when I was talking about Meta. TikTok really does a good job of it in terms of native integration. They also do a good job in terms of brand awareness. For a new brand that has a product at like, $30 or so, that's a sweet spot for TikTok Shop.
Are there other online platforms where, would be a creative step to sell on, like an Etsy
Like a
line?
Pinterest might be like that's an untapped area for us because we have cool designs and cans. We're looking into doing something with that. So yeah, I mean, there's a few others. Part of it is resources. All these platforms want your ad dollars. You're not going to show up organically.
Sure.
So for me, it's like I want to go deep in a platform so I feel like it's saturated. And really in like Meta, there's peers that spend millions of dollars a month. So there's a long runway. So you have to balance what is my return on ad spend? How much am I willing to spend for a customer? We like to keep ours at a certain threshold. And then once you start to see that slip and you're like, I really can't spend more without my metrics being affected, you can technically spend $1 million probably tomorrow on Facebook if you wanted to.
Sure. Yeah.
But your return on ad spend is going to be horrible. Your acquisition costs are going to be horrible. So, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? Well, there's a world where people spend a lot of money to acquire a customer because maybe their AOV on their product's higher. But the way I look at it is you go deep until you're saturated, and then you can move on to another platform. And we're still not saturated where we are with Meta. Yet, in launching this new product, we have Assembly Hydro, which is our electrolyte water. I wanted to isolate and kind of experiment with TikTok Shop to then not really advertise on Meta. Just do TikTok Shop, launch it, see how it goes, so that now you're not in both places and you get conflated data.
Like any business, you would have your fixed costs in terms of production, staff, overhead, all that kind of stuff. But then you've got some costs that are specific to the channel that you're selling on. But then you also have value maybe beyond just how much you're selling on that channel. Like, are you measuring specifically, here's other value we get from selling on Amazon or TikTok Shop or through retailers, that value doesn't come across in another channel?
Yeah, there's a lot of cross-channel benefits. So TikTok, there's a really good benefit to Amazon as an example. So you sell in TikTok Shop, you create this brand awareness, and then people can go to Amazon and then see your product. So that is somewhat measurable, but not completely measurable. You can also ask through post-purchase survey data, like where did you find us, or ask questions on, did you see us on Meta? And you've seen this a million times when you shop, like those surveys. They're helpful to an extent, but the reality is you need to spend money in marketing. And for us, the best marketing that we could do is to sell our product, believe it or not. To build a brand, you can do it in a million different ways. But best way for us is to get someone to try our product, to get it in their fridge. I call it like liquid billboards. Like, would I want to have a billboard on the highway that says, Go Brewing, really cool looking, and I'm hoping they're getting our product, or want to spend that same amount of money to acquire customers that they're actually trying our product? Now they're going in retail. They've already tried it. Retail is always going to be a better deal. To me, that's the big win with non-alcoholic beer is that we're able to sell online. If we weren't able to, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Right. You got to have some killer creative to get word of mouth just on the creative versus word of mouth referrals because someone's got it in their fridge or they bought the shirt or whatever.
That said, though, think about the friction between seeing a billboard and actually buying the product. There's a big gap there. You got to remember it. You got to go home. That's why frequency is so important. The only way to embed that in your mind is to have it up for a while and to have it in good spots. There's density and you're getting the right amount of impressions over time. I do think there's a purpose to billboards in some markets for validation, for a lot of other reasons, and we did have those at one point in time. But if I'm going to spend $100,000, I'm going to spend it in acquiring a customer and getting a beer in their hand, because that's so important to have them try our product and to put it in their fridge, because that's going to generate way more word of mouth than someone saying, hey, did you see that billboard? Yeah, I never heard of that brand, and then the conversation ends.
Yeah. So do you have one big main takeaway in terms of somebody that's starting to figure out what channels they should be on and when, like how to approach that?
Yeah, if you can, start on your own store first. Build it up. Make sure you have all your email flows properly set up. Make sure you're focusing on your customers that you own. And secondly, I would say if you can, expand to Amazon for bigger reach. And often if you're in CPG, retail is going to be your most important channel, in the sense that it will give you the opportunity to sell more product than any of those other channels. So you should have that be your goal if it makes sense for your business. Like, there's businesses that CPG might not even make sense. So it's hard to say, but
well, and you have the same liquid billboard effect by being a billboard in the grocery aisle, right?
But now if you think about, and this happens all the time, right? Like, we're launching Costco. We have done enough advertising. We've sold enough customers to the areas that we're going to be in, that many of the customers that are going to go into Costco have tried our product already. Now they're going to see this incredible value, and they're going to grab it. They've already tried it.
Awesome.